How's it going, guys? This is my first lesson, and it's going to be on a subject that is very dear to me, and it's a lesson that I really hope you take to heart. This is going to be a video on Social Security. I love Social Security. You know why I love Social Security? Because it's scamtastic. It is a big scam that everyone pays into. We keep paying into it. We've been paying into it since 1935, and no one cares. No one cares to understand anything about it. It's just hysterical, and that's why I love to talk about it. Okay, everyone knows what Social Security is. In 1935, FDR passed the Social Security Act, which is it's meant to be a pension plan for you and me. The idea is that people who are paying into the system now are paying for people that are retired. So the people that aren't working, you're paying for their retirement, and then the next generation will come along and pay for you. And the idea is that when you're old, you won't be destitute, you'll have money, you won't be out on the street, and it's a big circle of happiness, everyone caring for each other, and that big, great, progressive, shit that politicians always care about and stuff. Okay, so it started in 1935, but here's the thing. There's some things about Social Security that you don't actually understand because the government doesn't tell you about them, and I want you to understand about. So I'm going to talk about 3 problems with Social Security that the government really doesn't want you to know about. Okay, first is how money is taken out of your paycheck to pay for Social Security. Everyone knows that when you work, a certain percentage of your paycheck is paid in payroll taxes to pay for Social Security, and it comes in the form of 12.4%. Okay, 6.2 is supposed to be paid by you, and then 6.2 is supposed to be matched by your employer. To keep it fair and happy and stuff like that. Well, here's a problem with that that most people don't realize. When let's say you make $500 and you're supposed to have $100 going to Social Security. So if you're paying $500, you would think that $50 is taken from you, so you're making $450 now, and then $50 is taken from your employer. Well, that's not what actually happens. What happens is your employer cuts your paycheck by $50. Okay, so instead of making $450 after paying, you start out at $450 and then you pay $50, so you're making $400. Your employer does this because he doesn't want to lose money. They don't want to lose profits, and this is what happens when we do taxes like this, is that it always falls on the worker and it always fucks them over. So it's fucking you and me over. So that's one thing that people don't understand, is when you're when money is taking out for you, you think your employer is matching it, but they're really not. They're just cutting your paycheck, okay? Here's one of the most hysterical things about Social Security that people don't realize. Social Security is going bankrupt. It's going to be bankrupt in the long run, like every other socialized policy. But it's actually not going bankrupt now. Socialized policies can work in the short term, and some people realize that. But Social Security is one of those programs. Okay, in 2008, Social Security took in a surplus of money. When the government taxed people to pay for Social Security, it took in $180 billion more than it actually had to give to people. So it had an extra $180 billion. Okay, and this was put in an article by a guy named Mark Brandley back in May 2009. Who talked about this. Great article if you want to look him up. And he talks about this idea that the government took in an extra $180 billion last year. And number one, they didn't tell anyone about it. But number two, some people would ask, well, if they took in this extra money, where did it go? What happened to that extra $180 billion? You know what happened to it? I don't fucking know. But all I know is that the government took it and they spent it on something else. You see, when the government gets a surplus in any area, especially Social Security, they always take the money and they use it for something that isn't making a lot of money. Okay, I don't know where the money went. It could have gone to the war in Iraq. It could have gone to Nancy Pelosi's Botox injections. I don't fucking know. It could have gone anywhere. But you know what? It didn't go to Social Security. It didn't go back to you and me in the form of a tax cut. Now think about if a business did that. So let's say a business has a couple of divisions. It makes different products. And one division is making money and the other division is losing money. Well, do you think a CEO would ever say, let's take money from, that division that is actually making money and give it to the crappy division, and then we'll write ourselves an IOU and pay it back? Do you think any company would do that? No, they'd shut down the division that wasn't working, and they'd focus on the division that's actually making the money. But the government doesn't do that. And by the way, when the government writes an IOU, what it does is when it takes the money, the excess money, and spends it on something else, they give you a treasury bond from the government, or from the Federal Reserve. A treasury bond, they give it to the Social Security Administration. They say, look, we promise you we're going to pay this money back. They always do that year after year whenever they actually take more money than they need. Well, you know what a treasury bond is? It means a treasury bond is a promise that they're going to tax you in the future. They're going to take more of your money to pay back the money they just borrowed and wasted on something else. So when they offer the IOU in the form of a treasury bond, they screw you over. because they're screwing you over twice, because they're going, not only did that money not go to Social Security, but they're going to tax you more to repay the money that they borrowed. But the funniest thing about Social Security, this is why I love it, it's so funny, is that it is indeed going bankrupt. Here's the thing, in 2016 they're going to have to raise the payroll tax at least 3% in order to match more people needing Social Security. Okay, but here's the thing. Most people have heard of the Doomsday Year. The Doomsday Year falls somewhere between 2038 and 2042. You know, a lot of different economists will say when and where it falls. We don't really know where it is, but we know it's down the road. And what the Doomsday Year is when there will be more people retired, you know, those baby boomers, there will be more people retired than actually paying into the system. There will be more people retired than actually working. And why is that a problem? Well, here's the thing. When FDR first created the system, the ratio of workers to retired people was 18 to 1. For every 18 workers, one person was getting Social Security from those 18 people. Today, that ratio is about 3 to 1. In 15 years, that ratio will be 2 to 1. And then around 2038 to 2042, it will fall below 1 to 1, and there will be more people collecting benefits than actually people paying into it. Well, what the hell happens? Well, you and I would realize that it's going to go bankrupt. It means the system's going to come crashing down on everyone because we won't be able to provide pensions for everyone. All those workers that have been working for it won't have it. The old people will be screwed, and you know everyone will be in trouble. So you might ask, well, you know, if this is really happening right now and it's on track for bankruptcy, and you're lying to people by taxing more money than you need, and businesses are lowering your paycheck by matching it by just, you know, matching your Social Security by just lowering your paycheck, you might wonder, well, why are they doing this? Well, here's the thing. This is what I call one of the untouchable areas of government intervention, in the sense that if you ever threaten to take it away, people will explode. And I'd say it's mostly old people. I'm not knocking old people, but I'm just saying it's the people that are benefiting from the program are going to be the ones fighting tooth and nail, or in the case of old people, denture and nail, to keep the program. I only know of one current person in Congress who will openly state that we shouldn't have Social Security, and he fights against it. But he's the only person I can think of that actually does this. Because most politicians know if they ever fight against something like Social Security, the old people won't vote for them and they won't get elected. And most politicians don't really care about changing America. They kind of care about, you know, staying in their Senate seat, staying in their Congress seat, and getting paid. You know, so they won't go after an area like this that we know is unsustainable in the long run because they're afraid of old people voting them out. So that's why I love Social Security. I love Social Security because it's going bankrupt, because your paycheck is smaller, because your employer is just taking the money out of your paycheck to match it, because when the government taxes too much, they just waste it on something else. And like I said, it's going bankrupt in the long run, and that's why I love it. It's scamtastic because it's a giant scam. The government is stealing from you, they're stealing from me, but no one cares. No one cares about what the government does with your money. You know, as long as there's that promise of Social Security when you retire, you don't give a shit. You know, no one cares, and that's why I think it's important for people to understand that what happens when you pay into Social Security. Because if you understand that it's going to go bankrupt, then maybe you'll care when they raise the tax in 2016. Maybe you'll care before 2038 when it's going to come crashing down, and then you're going to be screwed. So, like I said, I love Social Security. It's just hysterical that we keep doing this. It's hysterical that it got it got passed in the first place in 1935. It's hysterical no one has tried seriously to repeal it as a law since then. So like I said, first lesson, Social Security, it's not good. It's going to go bankrupt. You're being robbed. So just remember that every time you look at your paycheck and say, well, they took money, but you know, it's for Social Security, so it's fine.